because she comes outside like, hey, can you go in there and talk to him? He on that nonsense again or whatever. Now, if she says it like that, to me, that says y'all do this way too often.
Stand up guy, never been in trouble before, and now his life is completely turned upside down.
And the fact that you would then in turn lose his job. So where's the money coming in from? So this literally could put an immediate halt to his life.
It is extremely difficult when you are defending an innocent person. Like somebody who is completely innocent, and you have no doubt in your mind they're innocent. Because if you fuck up, an innocent person goes to jail, and that's on your conscience forever.
Based on the facts that you're telling me, I don't see how you didn't put a gun in his face. I don't see how you didn't jam it down his throat as his children watched. I'm not saying I would do that. I'm just making a point.
You're going right where we need to be. I want to know what happened on this date.
So while I'm talking to him, I'm also like low key having a telepathic conversation with him because he's a street dude too. So when I'm talking to him, I'm actually having this conversation saying, yo, by the way, I'll beat your fucking ass. I'm not hurt. You feel me? I'm not hurt. Don't play with me, dog. I'll put hands on you, boy. The brother didn't want no smoke because he knows his brother is a piece of shit.
It's one thing to defend your brother, but you dragging me into some BS. I don't want no part of it.
All he did, we were in the hallway and we just hugged up, you know, man to man, locked in. Pause. And he's like, they try to take me from my baby. They try to take me from my kids. They don't want me to be a father. I love my kids. They always say that about black men. They say we don't love our kids. We love our kids. We in the hallway, nigga. I'm with him like, we love our kids. He said, we love our kids. We love our kids.
Yeah, I guess they got a bunch of people in the courthouse that's hearing that.
The bailiff is supposed to escort us out. That motherfucker was in there like this. Because he's a dad. And he felt that shit. I would say be very careful about responding to family drama. It's very easy to get caught up into something, you know? You didn't realize how it escalated so fast, you know?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Iron Gavel. I'm Chris Washington, a criminal defense attorney with over 17 years of courtroom experience. Bi-weekly, we bring you gripping, true stories of justice, strategy, and humanity from inside of the courtroom. Today's story is one of high stakes, sharp tactics, and a verdict that changed a life. Let's dive in now. Today's guest is attorney Darnell Barton. That's right?
Yes, sir. Good to see you guys. Good to see you, brother.
Darnell found himself involved in a very serious case where his client was accused of pulling a gun on another person during a confrontation at the client's sister's house. After a long legal battle and ultimately a jury trial, his client, whose life would essentially be over if convicted, was found not guilty and allowed to return to his family. But before we unpack this courtroom drama, let's get to know the person behind the fight. So, Darnell, tell us, what inspired you to pursue a career in criminal defense?
First off, again, thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity, brother. So, what inspired me? Some people, you know, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was a kid. It wasn't really the case for me. I actually was inspired by the Trayvon Martin case. I watched that case intently, so much so that I was really like updating people. This is back, I'm dating myself when Facebook was a thing, and I was, you know, getting so many followers. People wanted to know my perspective on the case. But my perspective was essentially from the beginning, with all these brothers locked up, there's no way they fumbled this case unintentionally, you know, or unless these prosecutors are just that bad. And I said, well, I think it's time to get in. So that's what happened. Or specifically, I was at work at the time, and a woman who I work with, I'm thinking this is a coworker, a friend, you know. I'm like, yeah, you know, and then he did this, and he wasn't supposed to do that. The cop said not to follow him. And she's like, well, you know, she just dismissed me. Well, you know, you're not a lawyer. And I'm just like, wow, okay, bet.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, and how did that shape your views on justice?
I moved a lot. I grew up in New York City originally. Shout out to New York, Southside, Jamaica, Queens. Most of my family's from Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy. So I moved from there when I was young. I was what they would call like a latchkey kid. We took ourselves to school, came home, made dinner, stuff like that, right? So eventually I moved down to Florida, lived with family down there, learned a lot. Shout out to my dirty boys down south. And then just learning a lot about different industries that I was in. I guess you could say I was industry prior to this, right? So I had a formal education also, in Florida, and you know how it is for young black men. It's probably not just Florida, but the streets are calling. It's very simple. So that's what we did. We handled it that way. But there's obviously a point where you recognize like this ain't it, or I could do more to help the community and stuff like that. So I did that. I dibbled and dabbled. I was kicked out of my house at a young age, and I ended up going to live with my uncle in Tallahassee, Florida. Very briefly, not to make this long, but he taught me how to be a man. He had four kids, one of which was his adopted son from his children's mother. And she was doing her own thing. And he said, you know what? I'll take the kids. And he did. He not only took them, then he took me in. And he just showed me how to be a man. This is what we do. We work hard. You know what I mean? We protect and provide and do what we need to do. As I was coming of age to leave his house, I think I was somewhere and I seen these group of young ladies that were beautiful. And I said, wow, what is that? My boy said, "That's FAMU." I said, "What's that?" He's like, "It's a college out here. It's a HBCU." I said, "That's where I'm going. Why did y'all say this earlier? I thought they wanted me to go to be." Yeah. So anyway, I'm joking, but that's what happened. Very brief story on that. I went to the college, and full disclosure, I had just finished and I was about to re up, and I went to the school and I talked to the lady and I said, "Look, man," and she was like, "All right, come on, next." She didn't even look at me next, and I was like, "Man, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do any of this, but I just know if I leave here, I'm going back to the streets. That's all I know." She looked up and was like, Cheryl, get him the what's it called, the 4 or 5, the thing, and get it. And I was like, thank you, man. Like, I don't know what I'm doing out here. I know I'm floating. So anyway, she was a shining light in my life. So that's my background.
That's great, man. A lot of us have to avoid or be willing to walk away from what's right there in front of us. I tell people all the time, like the average drug dealer would probably be a good businessman if he had the right opportunity.
I'm sorry to cut you, brother. I was gonna say some of the best businessmen I've ever met, including ethically, were some of the street dudes that I met. You feel me? Whatever term you use, just homegrown, hood, whatever it is. Like my best man in my wedding, that's my guy, former street cat. He's doing very well now for himself and his family. I'm proud of him because he transitioned. He took his skills. He's a mathematician. Man, you give him numbers, he'll equate it for you so fast and tell you what your percentage should be and what you should yield from it.
But it's just exposure, man. If we can get our kids exposure to know, like, hey, there's legitimate ways to make even more money than you think is available doing this illegal stuff, most of them will choose it. If you can go to work and make 10 times what you're going to make if you rob somebody without the risk of going to prison, most people would be willing to do that. That brings me to my next question I kind of want to ask you. I know we talked about it, but I want you to give it to the audience. What is your mission in this line of work?
For me, it's funny that we talked about the street stuff and these other things. My mission essentially is to give back to the community from which I came. And it goes on levels. So it's obviously, the black community and growing up in that area. Then it goes to a societal level of all people and of all communities because we all share so many things more than we do that are different. So you have a child, you want to make sure they get a good education. So do I. So for me, it's just continued levels of inclusion and unity. That is my mission, and that's what my firm's mission is as well.
You said something that it made me laugh. You said, you want your child to get a good education, so do I. I will never forget the first home I purchased. There was a white guy next door, and we became friends and close, and we would do fireworks and stuff around the holidays together. One New Year's, he said, I never thought I would live next to and then I finished his sentence, a black person. And he said, yes. I said, you know what? It's going to be okay though, because a couple of things. Some of the stuff you were probably taught as a kid, you don't teach your kid. Some of the things I was taught as a kid, I don't teach mine. And look, our boys are best friends. And then I said, number two, you and I are no different in that we want a good setup for our family. We want to make sure our kids are secure and well taken care of. I say, so we want the same thing, so it'll be okay living next to a black person. You know, once he got comfortable enough to tell me that it was cool, I wasn't offended by it. He was like, honestly, he was being brutally honest with where his thought process began and how it evolved. And clearly, we need a lot more of that.
I had a similar experience when we moved to Dallas, and my next door neighbor was an older white woman, and her son would come and visit her. And finally, he realized, oh man, these people are an asset. Like, I'm not nervous of them. They're protecting the neighborhood. They're going to protect our area as well as my mom, because we would check on her and make sure she needed things, etc. So
With respect to yourself, what do you think sets you apart in the field of criminal defense? And you're in Detroit, right?
that's correct.
So, what sets you apart? Why should people call you over all the other lawyers in Detroit?
Let me say this. I don't think they should call me per se over all the other lawyers in Detroit. I think you might just end up funneling to me. So it's like, depending on what you're trying to do, we're able to connect you. So I'm also with the State Bar Young Lawyers section. I'll be the president in 2 years, not gonna lie, right? And with that, I basically deal with the largest section of the state bar. So everyone in the state of Michigan who is a licensed attorney under that section would be under our group. I'm on the executive board. So pretty much any area of law I can connect people to. I don't practice every area of law, but I'm always able to, because of those connections and abilities, I'm able to connect people to those. Now, as it relates to criminal law, in that sense, like I said, I went to law school with a purpose, Trayvon Martin. As I was leaving, a mentor of mine, one of mine said, and this woman doesn't curse. I don't know if we can curse on here. Maybe I won't. But she said, Darnell, if you really want to fuck shit up, go in the prosecutor's office. That's where the bullshit happens. And I was like, this is me in graduation line. Like, oh my God, what am I doing next? Like, I need to fight the power, but I don't know where.
You got to fight them from the inside.
When I went in there, it was just, and learning it wasn't unique to that prosecutor's office was the scariest part. You know what I mean? It wasn't just that office, but I was fighting other prosecutors, other defense attorneys. Like, hey man, this is when you filed this motion. Like, what are you doing? Like this, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening here? I've had unethical defense attorneys. They ask me for deal B, I give them deal A, which is better. Just say, hey, have your client go get a GED or sign up for a GED and get a job. We'll dismiss this component and give him something less. They're like, okay, great. That's great. He'll take it. Boom. We go on record and they're like, well, judge, my client has to review and da da da. And then the guy is like, I won't say it. Well, anyway, he's not from our community. He's like, hey, sorry, I got to get paid. So, and I didn't know this at the time. I was a new lawyer. I'm like, man, I should have reported this mother.
I see that a lot. I've even had prosecutors ask me, has the client paid you yet? And I'm always like, don't worry about that.
Don't you stay over there.
Just give me this deal. I'll figure out the financial side of it if that's the case. So, the topic you're going to talk to us about today, the case specifically, why do you think is important for the public to know about it?
This one is an important case because I feel like this is an everyday person case, right? So it's not like oh, it was an armed robbery and they went in the bank and there was this technicality how he got them off. Shout out to those cases, and I do have those cases as well. However, this is to me an everyday case. So you have a guy, he has a sister. His sister may or may not be on some bullshit. Now, when I say that, do I mean that she's a bad person? Of course not. It just means she's the one that call you about some dumb shit all the time. Like, oh, Kwana need to get her hair done, and we got to get over here, and the car ain't working. And did it like, okay, how long the car not been working? Like, okay, 2 weeks. You just calling me now? Like, so that's the sister, right? Respectfully, sweet girl, respectfully. However, she's got a child's father who is a real asshole. And when I say this, I'm getting emotional thinking about him again because he's straight up an abuser, right? So I don't want to get too deep into my backstory, but my best friend's mother was very brutally beat when we were children, and we found her. And I knew from then on, even though I didn't need to see that, I never put my hands on a woman. So I just have an adverse reaction to men who would, because again, my past mixed martial arts training, I've never seen an actual martial artist lose his discipline like that. It's always these guys that say, I see red, the talkers, right? So anyway, he was a talker. He's a I see red guy. The everyday guy has a sister. She has a baby father who is just a deadbeat, mooching off the house, eating the baby's snack. He's calling his mom for help for everything. You know what I mean? Like from gas payments to her brother. Yeah, so, he's like, her brother over here bothering me or whatever. And he has daughters. So it's like, oh my God, I'm so afraid. I'm so glad for my client who used to go there and take his daughter over there with their daughter and pick up her daughter and take her out. And so she could see what a real man was like, their daughters, so they could see what a real man was like. My client was a truck driver, man. He's on the road. He comes back, he's with his kids. He wasn't like too far out. So he goes out, he comes home, he's with his kids. Real chill dude. He just happened to be a big guy. He was over 6 feet, and the guy who was the what they call complaining witness. You never call him victim in court or trial.
My client is the victim. He's the one whose life and liberty is at stake.
So the complaining witness, he was a shorter dude, real scrawny. It was bad, man. Like me and him, we went at it in court. And like I said, just my training, I've lost a lot of weight. Don't let me talk like I'm a big guy, but man, he was just this little pipsqueak. I don't know what else I could say without violating any statutes or rules, right? But anyway, so for me, this case is important for people to know, because it's like you could be home minding your business or whatever it is, and your family member calls you over, hey, I have an issue. Or you just go to their house. They didn't even call you over, because in this case, she didn't even call him over for that reason. He was coming over to get his nieces. They were going to hang out with his daughter. They're going out to Chuck E. Cheese or wherever it is. He's trying to be a good dad and uncle. He goes over there. She comes out. I don't know how, if you're ready to get into it, we can go.
You're going right where we need to be. I want to know what happened on this day. 30,000 foot overview of what happened.
As a father, you know how hard it is to just be a father. And then when you're a mentor and a father figure for other people's children, that's just a whole other responsibility that we carry that people just don't understand, right? So he's doing this. He goes over to get his nieces. As he's pulling up, the sister comes outside. Now she comes outside. This is again why I say she's on some bullshit, respectfully, because she comes outside like, hey, can you go in there and talk to him? He on that nonsense again or whatever. Now, if she says it like that, to me, that says y'all do this way too often, all the damn time. I'm already like, all right now. But at the end of the day, she's still an abuse victim. So I don't want to disrespect her in any way. That's not what I mean. So she's like, can you go in here and talk to him? Almost like, hey man, we got a problem in the sink. Can you check the sink? You know what I mean? No big deal. So he goes in the house. He's like, come on, man, what's going on? Not like, hey, what's up? What's going on? I'm ready. None of that. And if you see his demeanor, I'm talking about from day one, this dude, if he said 3 words to you, he's the stoic type, but not like angry stoic. He's very like this, like just, okay, that type of guy. He goes in the house. By the way, backstory is he is a CPL, which is a concealed pistol license holder. He has a concealed weapon. He had it on him that day. Anybody who knows about Michigan, if you have one, you always have it on you. You go to the store with it. So anyway, that wasn't out of the ordinary. Bro, everybody knows it. He's a licensed dude. Now, to be licensed means you don't have any of these felonies and things of nature that might prevent you to do so. So guess what? The child's father is what? He's a felon. He can't get that. He knows he's licensed. He knows my client is licensed. We're winding back. So my client goes in. Come on, man. What y'all doing, man? Y'all got the kids in here. Like, what's happening? Well, yeah. Well, she's, yeah. Why you getting all up? So my client comes in the room like this, and I'm the guy, and the guy has an iPad. He's holding up the iPad. Apparently, he's on the iPad with his mother and his brother. So he's on there. He's pretending that my client is attacking him. He's like, The witness says you can hear my client in the background just saying like, "What are you talking about?" You know what I mean? Like he doesn't know what's going on. But the guy is on there like, "Oh, and then you doing this and you doing that." Da, 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 da. But let's get into it, right? I'll get into the procedure of it, but there's some discrepancies in what the guy was saying. So you notice how I said when my client came in, he's facing him with the iPad. So I asked him on cross examination at the examination hearing, I'm like, "Where were you facing?" I was facing the door. Okay. So you had the iPad up? No, it was on the table. Okay, so it was on the table and it was facing you. You're having a conversation when he walked in, right? Yeah. Did you touch the iPad at any point after that? No, I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything to it. Okay, cool. So it's facing you. You're having a conversation. So they can't see him, right? No, they did see him. How?
Caught him in a lie. Yeah, tied him down.
You bum. You a liar. You'll beat on the woman. What else would you do? You might hurt a kid. You might do, I don't know what else you wouldn't do. That was that discrepancy. The mother and brother sent witness statements to the police. So I subpoenaed them to come to the exam. So in Michigan, if I can very briefly, the way the procedural process is you get arrested, you get arraigned, and then you have a pretrial. If it's a misdemeanor, if it's a felony, you have what's called a probable cause conference, a PCC. There you request discovery, you make sure you have it, and then you set an exam date, an examination hearing date. That's where they decide, the judge decides, the district court, the judge decides if there was in fact probable cause that this individual they believe probably was the individual to do this crime, right? That's the basic way to say it. And I know you know this, I'm just explaining for those watching, right? So if they find there is probable cause, they bind over the case to circuit, meaning the case goes over to the circuit court. There you have to start all over with an arraignment and then pretrial conferences, and then you eventually could go to a final pretrial and a trial. And that's what happened in this case. So we were at the exam. Some people would say, well, procedurally, why wasn't it dismissed at the exam? The reason why is because if there is any type of what they call issue for the trier of fact, which again I know you understand, but for those that means the jury or the judge. It's an issue for them to decide the intent of someone. That circumstantially you can put it together, but that's on the jury to decide. If it was a red or a blue car, there's a camera. That's not circumstantial. That's not an issue for the trier of fact. It's a red car. It's on camera. It's right there. So in this case, the issue for the trier of fact was whether or not my client actually unholstered his weapon, took it out, and then pointed it at this individual. Not shot him, not beat him up, nothing like that, but literally that small of a detail. Did he commit a felonious assault, is what we call it.
What's the penalty for that? How much jail time or prison time was he looking at?
I think it's 4 to 5 years. The issue with that is for his job's sake, again, what he was doing, he would lose his job and his license. Therefore, like you said, that would be the end for him. So even if he didn't have to serve the entire 4 to 5 years, you're talking about a complete career change. He's a single dad. He takes care of his daughter and, as you can see, the sister and things of that nature as well. It was devastating to him because, again, he also had no prior criminal history. Again, this is someone who has a regular job, regular dude, graduated high school, said, hey, I'm going to go drive trucks, started doing that, got his owner operator stuff. Well, I don't want to speak too much on what he's doing. So, but long story short, he did it the right way for his sister's problem to now be his problem. No disrespect to her, of course.
So I gotta know, like, I'm thinking about this guy, and he sounds like you or I. So, what was his emotional state like when he first came to you? You know, stand up guy, never been in trouble before, and now his life is completely turned upside down. So, what was his mindset? Where was he mentally when you guys first met?
You know what's funny? I believe he came through a referral. And it's so funny because as he was explaining the story to me, as I'm explaining it to you, you can see the emotion and the frustration and the anger in my voice. Nothing like that with him. It was just like, I can't believe what's going on. If I could explain it in that gesture, that was it. He's like, dude, I'm 6'3". Like he's 5'4". Why would I even need a gun? Even if I were, man, they go through this shit all the time, bro. They fight so much, I don't even try to get into it. Like I know how they get down. Sometimes I got to go over there and get the babies out the house. Why would this be any different? Man, so it was very stoic. His heart was broken. That's what it was really like, to be honest with you, because it felt like he was betrayed. There's another backstory to it. His sister's children's father is actually a dude who used to work with him back in the factory days. He met him and started dating his sister on the low, and then he still befriended the dude. Like, still kept his friendship. Like, yo, because that's a violation if you ask me. You dating my sister, you didn't let me know?
What the hell is that about?
We'll talk outside, bro. No, 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 no. He's fine. He's fine. Come on outside. You know what I'm saying? Y'all stay in here. But the point is he still was cool with him. Then, after I believe she got pregnant or whatever it was, now we locked in. So he's like trying to help him. The dude is just a complete fuck up. That's just what he is. He's a natural born fuck up. That dude who just you give him $100 because he need $50 to get something done, and then you see him the next day. He not only didn't get it done, but he doesn't have a $50 or the $100, right? So this dude, he not only helped him back then, but once the baby started coming, he would help him get jobs. So he was helping him get off the fucking couch, get a job, do this stuff. So he felt betrayed. He was like, damn, this dude know a felony could just it could terrorize my record, dog. Like I don't have no record. Like it could terrorize my family. Like he wasn't dealing with child custody issues, but he had already been through it, and any type of situation like this could now reissue some type of custody battle
He would have been right back in family court, I can assure you.
immediately. And so now that money that it would have cost for him to get an attorney, put that thousands of dollars in a bucket, that's gone. The attorney he needs for this case, put those in the bucket, okay? And then any fees and fines associated with it. And the fact that you would then in turn lose his job. So where's the money coming in from? So this literally could put an immediate halt to his life.
When he meets with you and tells you his side, did you have any initial doubts or fears that you were concerned about as the case unfolded?
Absolutely. And I tell my clients, I'm a real dude, man. I don't want to say the term on here, but I'm a real one. So I kept it a beat with him. I said, man, I'm not gonna hold you, bro. Based on the facts that you telling me, I don't see how you didn't put a gun in his face. I don't see how you didn't jam it down his throat as his children watched. Not saying I would do that. I'm just making a point. You know what I mean? Like, are you serious? You put your hands on my sister repeatedly?
Right. Who knows what I might not do?
I don't know what I might do. Right. So
So we got this guy essentially lying, saying your client pulled a gun from his holster, and your client's position is I never unholstered my gun because I'm a foot taller than this guy. He's 5'4", I'm 6'3". I wouldn't need anything like that to defend myself against him.
and truly, his main argument was, I know this guy. I would never do anything. I have no violent history. I'm not a violent dude. Not to mention, if I wanted to get violent, I would pummel this guy. Like, he's not even. So, why would I need to threaten him with a gun or anything like that? Like, that's crazy to me. This is my niece's father. What am I going to kill him? That's crazy to me. And so that's what his argument was. And I told him to his face, I was like, based on what you're saying, I'm not saying I don't believe you that you didn't pull the gun. I'm just saying it would be hard for others not to believe that you didn't pull a gun because I would believe that you pulled a gun on him based on these facts.
And you would understand why he might pull a gun.
And I said that's going to be the theme. And that's what the complaining witness wanted it to seem like. Oh, he came in there because she lied on me and said that I beat on her and I didn't. And then he comes in and I'm just his victim and da, 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 da. That's what he wanted to portray. But thankfully for him and people like him, they don't have control, okay, of themselves, but they want to control everything else.
Your client was arrested?
He was.
How long did he sit in jail?
Only a few days, but let me tell you, any amount of time that you're in jail is too much, especially if you're innocent. It doesn't matter if it's 1 minute or 1 week. That's too long.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, but they had him on a tether for a while, which again is an intrusion on his rights. So all of this to fight, and again, why do we bring this case up? Because of the everyday person. So all of this stuff he had to deal with, and we hadn't even got to any jury trial yet. This is just him being arrested, arraigned, and now we're here at the PCC. He's wearing a tether on his leg, has to go to work with this thing on, looking like he's some kind of savage or criminal or something.
Let's take a look at the initial evidence. What did the prosecutor turn over to you as evidence of your client's guilt?
Nothing. It was absolutely nothing, man. It was just like, it was obviously the police report with the statements from the complaining witness. Completely bullshit. It was just fabricated. And as you read it, what's so funny was I said to my client, I was like, send me a picture of the dude. So when I get the discovery, I could see, like my mind's eye can see him saying what he's saying, right? So he sends me this pipsqueak dude, right? As soon as I'm looking at the picture, he's that beady eyed little son of a bitch that you just like, I know this motherfucker's lying. And there's no limit to his lie. I know he will be physically abusive with this woman. So he's got that little man complex. It's all this stuff. So I'm reading it and it's like, he's doing this like code switching thing. You can tell he doesn't talk like that. I think he got like a tat on his neck over here and he's like the perpetual vibration of the, you know what I mean? Like doing, I was like, he's a piece of shit liar. So they just gave his statements. They got statements from his mother who wasn't there. She was on the iPad. No proof of this, right? And the brother, they got the brother too. And the statements were so salacious from the mother and the brother. It was like I could hear him. He was screaming and yelling, and he was saying, "I saw him wave the gun because he was holding up the iPad. I thought he was gonna shoot me." Man, I almost said, "Bitch," but I'm like, "Ma'am, you're on a computer screen. God damn it. You know what I mean? Like, but I was just reading the statement. They never showed up to the exam. So I mentioned that the prosecutor objected. Basically, that is objection, but I just wanted it on the record. I was like, so real quick, you say all this shit happened and your mom and brother witnessed. Why are they not here? They're not even here. Objection, Your Honor. I was like, hey, listen, as I asked him, I'm staring at him, me and him, this whole time. We having like that, you know what I mean? We doing this. All right, you ready? Let's go. So we playing mind games the whole time at the exam. We didn't even get to trial yet. At the exam, I'm just setting them up. Bing, 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 boom, boom. I'm thinking we're not even going to get past this, but I know that the issue for the trier of fact was there. I just thought that the judge was in the district court saw how much bullshit this dude was spewing that she would take it upon herself. But anyway, she had to do her job. I'm not mad at her.
So now that we're bounded over, we know the case is either going to trial or your client's gonna have to take a plea deal, right?
Yes, that was a little nerve wracking for me, Doug. I ain't gonna lie.
I want to know your strategy. In my mind, you're like, this thing has to go to trial. It's time for me to anchor down and come up with my defense. So, what was your strategy? How did you go about breaking down the state's case? Were there any inconsistencies or contradictions that you had to tear apart?
Actually, let me go back a step. My first thought was, oh my God, can I get a plea for this guy? Because I don't want him to risk going to trial and blah, blah, blah. And all that stemmed from my insecurity. A jury that could put this brother in jail for something that he didn't do. At this point now, I believe him. This is months gone by now.
Something you said early on rings true right now in this moment. People like to ask you, how can you defend all these guilty people? And I always tell people, when I have a client that's clearly guilty, they got him on video, DNA, all of that, we know you did it. It's easy to defend those people. It is extremely difficult, nerve wracking, causes anxiety and stress and all of that when you are defending an innocent person. Like somebody who is completely innocent and you have no doubt in your mind they're innocent, it's hard to defend those people because if you fuck up, an innocent person goes to jail and that's on your conscience forever.
So that's why I said my initial thought was this weak minded lawyer mentality of, oh my God, what could I get him to plead to? But what plea could I get him that would save his life? Because I have to think of several components, not only the felony component, but the fact of his job. So if it led to any of those things that were related to it, especially any assaultive crime, based on where he was working, I can't divulge that. That would have been the death knell. So there's several components to it. So even if I got him a deal to get a lesser than a felony charge,
His life is still ruined.
later that day, I went home. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I'm in the backyard playing with my kid and I'm throwing the ball, and my son is like, Dad, Dad, Dad. I'm in the zone because I'm thinking about the case with this guy. And I said, oh my God, this dude could, for 4 or 5 years. And by the way, whenever that happens, real quick, you can be served or charged and be sentenced to 4 to 5 years in prison, and that really be a death sentence, especially for someone with no criminal history, no gang affiliation, no big families. You're a big guy, you're a target. That could be a death sentence. So I don't just think of, oh my God, he could have got 4 or 5 years or whatever it is.
His life is over.
So I said, nah, we can't do this. Immediately that next day, I went back to him and I called him and I said, listen, brother, we got to really put our heads together because I don't feel comfortable having you plead to anything. I can't. So here's what I'll do for you. And I'm disclosing stuff I shouldn't say. I said, man, I'll refund you a certain portion of stuff. Here, get a court appointed, and then you can take this plea or whatever. I'll negotiate this shit before I even leave. You'll be fine. You'll have the money. You can apply that to your probation if that's what you choose. But for me, brother, I can't have you plead to it. I can't. Not on my conscience, I can't have you do it. I got to go to trial on this one. He said, brother, then let's go to trial.
That's all you needed to hear.
So yeah, so starting to break down the state's case, I knew first off the main component was the complaining witness and then witnesses. So the complaining witnesses, his story was so full of holes. Then I had the exam, so I had all these contradicting things, no problem. Second was the witness of the sister, making sure, because none of the kids were there inside, because the kids were all outside. The sister was outside when he went inside the house. It was just him and the guy. So breaking down what the sister exactly saw and things of that nature. Then breaking down what the witness statements were from his mother and the brother. Then I take the body cam footage from the officers interviewing on scene. And what I like to do is I like to compile witness each by each witness. So for the complaining witness, I would just go through and have different things that I would come back to and leave a bullet point like Mark 152 body cam number 6, he says this, however I recall this, point that, stipulate to this, or argument here, whatever it is, right? Just do my little bullet point. Because of the charge of this case, which is a felonious assault, usually it's a he said, she said, right? Because the same thing with assault and batteries. It's usually a he said, she said. Unless it's on camera, there's really no other way other than witnesses saying, hey, I saw him do that. And in this case, the only witnesses were the complaining witness and my client. So it really was a he said, she said. Attacking the people's case because, in my opinion, they really didn't have one, it's very difficult to attack a case that they don't have anything. I want to retract that and say it another way. Why is that? Because there's so many opportunities for them to one create and change the narrative of your defense. So I'm saying my client was there at noon and now you have videotape of him being there at 11:30, that changes the narrative of our defense. So if you never had that footage and you never disclosed that footage, then maybe our defense is that he was there at noon. Or maybe now the 11:30 changes it to the point where it's in our favor. I don't know, but it could change the narrative of that defense.
I want to get the most important moments of the trial and the key cross examinations. Before we even get there, is there anything that happened in jury selection that you think the audience should know about?
Well, that's where the case was won, to be honest with you.
Say more about that. How do you win a case in jury selection?
Oh man, let me tell you. And by the way, take whatever I say with a grain of salt. I always say this stuff is an art form. You know, they have their different artistic formation. So for me, the trial is one in jury selection because that's when you as an attorney get to speak directly to the jury and say who you are. This is who I am. Hey guys, by the way, just so you know, I'm being facetious here. Like, I don't even like these type of cases, but I am taking this one because that's how innocent my guy is. I get to ask them questions about their life, and in this case, and one of my questions to the jury were, "Which one of you has a sibling?" I think everybody but like two people raised their hands. And I said, "Now keep your hand up if you have a sibling. Put your hand down if you hate your sibling." So maybe like two people out of like 40 people put their hand down. And I said, all right, everybody who put your hand down, let's reverse it. Flip your hand up. Why am I doing all this? I want it to be interactive, purposefully. I was like, very briefly, just tell me why you hate your sibling. And whatever the story was, I don't remember. The sibling did something that was so egregious, everybody was like, God damn, which I wanted. That's what I wanted. You too, I want you to sit this one out. Way to say, okay? But for everybody else who had their hands up, for the most part, we all agree our siblings might be annoying, right? Keep your hand up if you agree your sibling is annoying, right? Okay. Now, put your hand down if your sibling was in trouble and you wouldn't do anything to help them. Everybody kept their hand up. I said, okay.
That's good. I like that. We're not allowed to make the golden argument in closing, violate the golden rule by saying, put yourself in my client's shoes. But that's essentially what you did in your jury selection. You had the jurors put themselves in your client's shoes. And that is golden. Whenever we can do that in a case, we need to do that.
Now, let me tell you, it was a two-part flip, right? It was a mind fuck because the way the prosecution was going to lay it out, they're trying to make that point. Oh, he's the brother coming to save her, and he did put the gun in her face. So, my follow-up question was for those of you who had your hand up who said they're annoying, but you would still protect your sibling. I said, but now to what extent? I say, put your hand down if you would kill somebody on camera in front of the courthouse for your sibling. And most people were like, they kept their hand up because they was like, man, I don't know about all that. That's crazy. That's a lot. I said, so there is a logical limit, right? You're gonna go, right? Somebody pushes your sister or something, you're gonna be like, hey, what the hell? Somebody's like, hey, I don't like you. You're not gonna pull out a gun and shoot them, blah 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 blah, all in the front of the courthouse, right? No, no, that's crazy. All right, because we're gonna establish what's reasonable here. You know what I mean? And then I went into this whole thing because I was like, you're going to hear from the prosecution that my client came in here, guns a blazing, to protect his sister, who was whatever, whatever. I skipped the part about going into how annoying your sibling is, who has the fuck up. Like, who has the fuck up sibling here? Anybody? And like, most of the people raised their hand. Like, they kept their hand up. Maybe like two people put it down. I said, so you're not going to go kill somebody in front of the courthouse and do all this other stuff for a sibling because this fuck up sibling says, hey man, this guy owes me 20 bucks, right? Or their other problem, right? Raise your hand if your sibling always has some kind of problem. People were dying to get, oh, let me tell it. Oh, they think that I'm going to let them tell their story. Me. And so I'm like, that sibling that is the fuck up, it's normal for you. You're not gonna jump out of your body every time they fucking call you with some rah rah shit. Hey, can I borrow $20 because my card thing, my cable ain't working? Man, they always need to borrow $20. They always need you to bring them somewhere. They always need a ride. They always need gas money. So think about that. Are you jumping? Are you every time they tell you something? Of course not, because you know that's who they are. And that's when we got in the case, and that's they realized, oh, I get it, because they saw my client, and kind of big dude, and he's just sitting there, and they're like, yeah, if I was him, I'd go in there and beat somebody up over my sister. But then they realized, like, oh yeah, his sister. Oh, I get it now. I get it. This man. He has no criminal record. This man would be in jail every damn week messing with this sister. You know what I mean? Over anything. So that was how we did the jury. Yeah.
So, how did you take that from jury selection to opening statement?
My opening statement was I quoted him. So I walked in because there's different ways people go in. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, blah 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 blah. People do shit like that in their opening. That's cool. I don't knock you. It's an art form. Do what you do. Sometimes it's called for that, right? Sometimes you're in a real conservative jury and it's ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Maybe I don't know. My style is conversational because I want people to talk to me like I want to be talked to. But I also had the theatrical element to it. So I'm like, I don't want to get up and dramatize it. But I basically walked into the well of the court and I said, again, what are y'all doing? Are you serious? Come on, man. The kids are here. Think about that. How frustrated do you have to be to know that your sister is in a domestic violence situation? And the evidence will show, because I just wanted to throw that in there real quick, that The complaining witness has had repeated, not once, not twice, repeated situations of the police coming to remove him from the house from domestic violence. You're going to hear my client's criminal record. Matter of fact, I'm going to show it to you right now.
Blank sheet of paper. You showed it to him? You showed him a blank sheet of paper?
Did the pregnant pause and turn my back on him? I was telling somebody, like, when in trial, I love trial, the theatrics of all that shit. I had a mock trial coach in law school who was like, "Never turn your back to the jury," and did it. And I said, I don't know. It depends on what I'm saying.
If you're talking, if words are coming out of your mouth, maybe.
I said, if I say some cold shit, it's just like a basketball game. People want to be like, oh. And we know for a fact that's not true because he just admitted that on the stand. Now, let's get to the next part we have. That back turn is serious. You don't just use it all the time. You don't keep doing it. It's like the pregnant pause. You don't just pause for no reason. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. No, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today you're here for, but you know what I mean? And we go from there.
You kind of give the jury your theory of the case, your defense in your opening statement. And for the people that don't know, us as criminal defense lawyers, a large part of our case is not the witnesses we call, but the cross examination of the witnesses the prosecutor calls. So I want you to take my audience through your cross examination of the complaining witness and any other witnesses that testified.
I apologize for interrupting. May I go back one step just to the opening statement, if I may?
Yeah, because it ties into everything. So please do.
I remember in law school listening to the guy who does the trial advocacy who said, tell a story. I forget his name. So I like to tell a story. So I did so, but I do it from the perspective, a first person perspective. So after I went into the whole, I'm tired of this thing, I'm doing this and that, everything was still based off of a first person perspective. I would just do like cuts. And like if you were thinking of a movie where you pan away and you look at the camera, they do that breaking the fourth wall, and I would talk to the jury, like, imagine that, and da 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 da. And then I would go back into the story. And the story was, you get up, you put your pants on, you're getting ready to go to work, you do this, you work your 8 hour day, you're going to get your kids, you do this, da, da, da. You're going to get your nieces, your sister comes out, and da 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 da. And then you're like, oh my God, again with these people. Like, I need to get home. I'm tired. I got this going on. I got that. I got to pay these bills. You go in the house, this guy starts losing it. You're like, what is happening here? You like, man, whatever. You take your kids and the nieces, you go to the kids' place and you go play, whatever. You don't know what's going on. 2 days later, a day later, whatever it is, the police come to your house and they arrest you. What? So I did that. That was me kind of just breaking down how that opening statement was really like a story. And I would break the fourth wall sometimes and be like, how would you respond to it? Not that way, but you get my point.
I've done first person, but I won't stay the whole time I'm doing my opening or closing in first person. But I like how you call it breaking the fourth wall. So you kind of interject within that story. But always, always, always tell a story. I tell people that all the time. There's a book. It's called Whoever Tells the Best Story Wins.
I like that.
The female author, she wrote two books I encourage lawyers to read. The Story Factor, and is her first book, and her second book was Whoever Tells the Best Story Wins.
I'm writing that down. So you talked about the exam.
Let's hear about them.
The first thing that they do is they put the officers on the scene. There were reporting officers to the scene, and they put them on. In my opinion, they put them on first because they knew that their complaining witness was so trash and he was a piece of shit, basically. Or should I say allegedly? I don't know. I mean, sue me, dude. He said the prior domestic violence charges against him confirmed that he is in fact a piece of shit. But anyway, so they put the cops on first because they wanted to establish some credibility in front of the jury, right? Like, hey, this is serious. The police were involved, and the police said it was him. And so I just asked the cops basic fucking questions. The great thing about that was the officers knew the complaining witness was a piece of shit, so they didn't fight for him the way that, like, for example, say he was like a little woman and my client was a big guy, and I mean, if I keep it a being with you, they were kind of indifferent. They were just like, yeah, we showed up. Nah, nobody was there. The defendant was gone by then. So I just was like, hey, look, man, you got on the scene at this time, right? Yeah. Okay. He said that the people were here at this time, right? Did they ever come and meet with you? No. Okay, so how did you get their statement over the phone? Okay, have you ever met these people? No. Do you even know if they're real? Well, I know they're real because I talked to them. Do you know for 100% certainty that the woman you spoke to on the phone was his mother? No. Thank you. That's all I asked. Okay. Now, what about the brother or the cousin? Do we know who it was? Do you know who it was? Well, he said he was the brother. True. Just for the record, he didn't say he was the baker, right? No. Or the candlestick maker. Your Honor, objection, argumentative. I was like, hey, I'm just trying to let the jury know this is some dumb shit right here we about to go through. He could have saved us some time, y'all. He's being evasive. He could have saved us some fucking time, you know? But all right, let's keep going, guys. He's insulting our intelligence. Me and you, jury, me and you, we're on the same team.
Now, you're not saying all this, but that's the persona you want to portray.
Correct. I apologize if I didn't make that clear. Yes, what I was saying was me breaking the fourth wall to you guys of me in the court saying, hey, jury, me and you, we don't believe this guy, meaning the cop. Not necessarily that we don't believe him. We notice when he's being evasive. Why would he be evasive? Right? If everything is as he says it's supposed to be, why would he be evasive? So let's keep an eye out. Let's watch. So we go through the first cop, second cop. I mean, it was just the same. They didn't see anything. They just reported after the scene. So really, a lot of my questions were based on their failed investigation. Okay, did you call them back to the scene? Didn't she give you a number? You didn't ask the defendant to come back to the scene? Like, did you get a statement from the sister? She lives at the residence. You didn't get a statement. There was just so many botched issues because they knew, the officers, in my mind, deep down, they knew this was some bullshit.
All right, so now for the state's star witness. We dealt with the officers, and now we got the complaining witness, the victim, allegedly.
Right. This was the best part for me because I like to bully bullies. You know, I just, and this dude was, he was the quintessential bully for his wife, and I'm assuming those kids because it was bad. Anyway, so we get him on the stand, and I already know there's this saying that a mentor said to me in law school. It was like, look around the courtroom. If you can't find the asshole, it's you. And I was like, that's deep. So I made sure I didn't come across as an asshole, but I wanted to make sure I showed how much of an asshole he was. So I baited him. He's very easily manipulated because he has an ego issue. And I believe he has like kind of like this bipolar thing that you get from repeated drug use and alcoholism. You feel me? So that's my opinion. I don't know. But we got him on the stand and we started off very light because remember, we had our little dust up at the exam prior to this. So this is our second time meeting, second time getting him on the stand. So now he thinks he's ready for me, which is even funnier. We walked through the whole process of, you remember how I had him contradicted himself on the iPad? So now he's changing his story to say that he picked up the iPad and he was walking away and then he was following and that's how they saw him. Family saw the gun because he had the iPad like this and they could see behind him as he was holding it up and my client had the gun to him. I said, so then you're saying he had the gun to the back of your head? Well, yeah, it was. I said, well, which one is it? And we basically broke it down and the prosecution knew what I was going at. Basically, like, it's not an assault if you didn't see it. It's not an apprehension of imminent harm if you're not in any way in notice of this harm to come. You didn't even know. So how would you be apprehensive of it? You know what I mean? It's like flinching and nobody's doing anything. Or the opposite of that. You don't flinch, you can't see it. But somebody's behind you going like this, you know? He lied on there. We cleared that up. We got on his record and that I made him dance. That's the whole thing. You got to make him dance. I'm like, hey, so let's talk about your prior criminal record because you guys have several issues of domestic violence in this house, right? Actually, let me go back a step. I set him up because I was like, I said, so you're saying that my client came in there and he's just wielding a gun and he's angry and all this other stuff, right? Yeah, he did. And he was doing that and he was angry and da da da. And I was like, okay. I mean, you're saying that he came in like in an attack mode, like violent, like as if he was gonna attack you or something like that. Yeah, da 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 da. He is violent, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, all right. Well, let's talk about that, right? Because if anybody has a history of violence, it's you, right?
That's right.
let's go through this history of violence, my boy. And he started dancing. He losing it because he know it's coming. Yeah, and then in that one, in that case, and then objection, Your Honor, the relevance and all that. I'm like, we can move on. Yeah. Sometimes you get to say shit in court. I say, Your Honor, honestly, I don't even want to repeat the details of those cases. So don't worry, I'm not interested in going into.
That was at a sidebar, or did the jury hear that?
They fucking heard it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Your Honor, you know what? We can move on. I don't even want to go through the details of those cases, to be honest with you. Looked up at the jury like, feel me? Anyway, moving on. After we do the history of violence with him, I'm talking about what happened that day. As we went through the iPad thing and what happened that day, I went back to the backstory of him and the defendant. And I was like, the whole iPad thing, and now you saying this and that. You remember making a statement at the exam, right? Okay, and this is what you said. Da, 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 da. You sure that's your statement?
You impeached him, which simply means you showed he lied because he had prior statements that were different or inconsistent with what he's now attempting to say happened while in court on the witness stand.
Absolutely. And that happened back at the examination hearing, which was months prior. So he probably doesn't recall what lie he said because it's hard to remember a lie.
That's right. How many times have you ever seen a prosecutor charge his star witness with perjury for lying on the witness stand?
This is how bad it is. Once the case is dismissed and they don't want to reissue it because they know it's some bullshit, it goes in file 13. They not looking and they're not calling on no witness. They're not checking on the kids. Man, that thing is done for them. They don't care if he lied on the stand. They're more mad or embarrassed that they either wasted their time or they didn't get the W. Yeah, they lost.
Anything else you think the audience needs to know about the cross examination of the complaining witness?
So there's portions of it where I went sequentially, where I said how we started off with the history of violence, and then we went through the sequences of that day, right? I went back to the history, but not of his history of violence, but of his history with my client because now I'm about to use him to humanize my client. So now I'm like, but let's go back. So after all this whole gun angle and impeaching him, you weren't this way and all that, right? You're a fucking liar, right? Cool. We all agree. Cool. Everybody got it? Good. All right, let's move on. Now let's go to your relationship with my client. Now, you've known him prior to knowing your child's mother, correct? Yeah. And the reason why you even know her is because of him, right? Yeah, because you were dating her behind his back, right? Well, I went. Well, did he know about it? Well, no. I told him, okay. So, however you want to word it, you were sneaking and dating his sister behind his back, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, I wasn't sneaking, but yeah, I was dating her. All right, cool. After that came out, did he pull his gun out on you, throw you down some stairs? What did he do in response to you dating his sister? Nothing. Okay. I'm looking at the jury like, exactly. This is the type of guy he is. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I was like, all right. And then we went down the line of he actually was the guy who got you a job at your last job, right? And the one before that too, right? Yeah. And there was at some point he got you a job at this other place. I'm laying the foundation for the fact that my guy is the good guy. This guy is the fuck up. Then the last component of it and why all this even mattered was because as we were doing it, I was very, I don't want to say snarky. It was very like, I don't believe you. I think you're a piece of shit. And I'm going to talk to you like that. You didn't even finish that thing when you did that, did you? All right, but how about that? And then what about this? Why did you? I was like, sir, I'm going to ask the questions. You answer them. Got it? Let's go. So now this and this and that. Like, I'm checking the shit out of this dude because the last thing he wants to do is be emasculated in front of anybody. That's why he puts his hand on his woman. What is my main goal is to metaphorically or philosophically emasculate him in front of this jury. That's what I did. And then there was other parts where I would let him go and let him ramble because he's talking a bunch of shit and he seems incredible. You know, like that drunk uncle that was no, because they always that, and then they had a thing, and then he gets back when we were 6, he did this and this, and I just let him rock. And then when he goes and he stops talking because he realizes, oh shit, it's a trap. He want me to talk like this. Then once he realizes that and he shuts up, guess what I do? I pregnant pause him real quick like this. Okay, sir. So I understand that, but now I'm gonna ask you to answer the question that I asked. Like basically, like y'all see this motherfucker, he talking all this shit. Didn't even he's evasive, didn't even answer the question. So either he's not smart enough to answer it or he's being evasive. One of the two. But you guys are smart enough to know how to answer this question. Why not him? This is the same guy we're supposed to believe that's supposed to put this man in jail for a certain period of time. We're all gonna agree to that based on this guy's comments. So yeah, that's how it went. I got him up out of his body pause a few times where the judge was like, he's gonna ask the question and you're gonna and I was in there sitting there like this. Low key, I'm thinking in my head too, like 'cause I remember in law school, attorney said to me one time, he was like, I make sure I work out and I stay fit and do all this stuff too, because I also want to know like I can beat you in court, and worst case scenario, I'll beat the shit out of you for real. I said, damn. Like with all my training, I never really felt like that. I always feel like it's just for defense. But the way he, like for self defense, but the way he said it, it made me feel that way. And I use that in court now. So while I'm talking to him, I'm also like low key having a telepathic conversation with him because he's a street dude too. So when I'm talking to him, I'm actually having this conversation saying, yo, by the way, I'll beat your fucking ass. I'm not hurt. You feel me? I'm not hurt. Don't play with me, dog. I'll put hands on you, boy.
And he can't handle that.
But he knew. I wish I seen him outside of court. I gave the girl my number. Hey, tell him to come by the office. He's cordially invited. Never came.
So you tear him apart, and the prosecutor, I'm sure they do what they do. I guess it was those officers and the complaining witness. His mother and brother did not testify at the trial, right?
Nope. We had a whole battle because they tried to have her testify via Zoom. I was like, no.
This little clause in the Constitution, the confrontation clause, I need her here so I can cross examine her.
And she didn't even get in the camera. They was like, she's here, Your Honor. She's just on Zoom. I was like, nah, we're not doing that. The brother never showed. The brother is supposed to be a street dude. The brother showed at the exam. He didn't show at the trial. Because at the exam, I was like, yo, you supposed to be a street dude, right? This dude put a gun on your brother. Why is he still here breathing? That shit don't add up. The math ain't mathing, dog. What type of street is you? You know what I'm saying? What we doing here? Oh, you not. You know your brother's cap. Your brother is a piece of shit, and he got you involved in this. And you're about to say something on the stand because I remember I said something about perjury and all this other stuff. I'm like, you're still subject to perjury, right? Okay, and that's a 2-year offense. All right, go ahead. Let's go. Go ahead. Answer the question now, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
You did all that to the brother who's in the streets.
The brother didn't want no smoke because he knows his brother is a piece of shit.
It's one thing to defend your brother, but you dragging me into some BS. I don't want no part of it.
The brother looked like he probably still got work in the streets right now. I'm like, yeah, he probably don't want to be. He probably didn't even want to come to the court.
He trying to avoid the courthouse at all costs.
All costs, which is why he probably didn't come to the trial because he knew from the exam I was on his head. Pause. I'm like, bruh, just so you know, I got a brother. I think I said this to the after we adjourned and we leaving and everything, and we leaving out the courtroom. I was like, look, I got a brother too, man, but you got to be careful, man. They'll put you in a tough situation. I wasn't talking to the witness. I was talking to the prosecutor who was with the witness.
The witness heard it.
I don't know, maybe. I said, they'll put you in a tough situation, man, and you got a family to protect. You got to, it's one thing if somebody was trying to hurt your brother and there was really something going on, but like baby mama drama, you ready to go to jail on your brother's baby mama drama? I know he got like at least one or two baby mamas. The brother looked like he got his shit together. He don't play around. He's not undisciplined.
Being that the officers offered very little value, then you destroyed the complaining witness on cross-examination. What did the prosecutor argue in their closing argument? How did you respond and deal with it?
First off, the prosecutor was my homeboy. He was a cool dude. Me and him were cool. When I was in the prosecutor's office, but right before I left, I low-key trained him on some. So he was in my misdemeanor courtroom with me training. I used to be like, yo, fam, you got to iron your shirt when you come into court, fam. Stop waking up out of bed and just come to the court, my boy. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of dude. But he's smart as shit. Smart as shit. So he started arguing the statutes and he was just basically saying, hey, and it was a good argument. I'm not mad at him. He was saying, hey, this really comes down to, do you believe whether or not this dude would defend his sister? Would you? counsel did in jury selection. He asked if you guys would da da da, and I said, "Oh, that was good. I like that. That was slick." And then I flipped it back. So he was basically just saying like the timeline of events show X, Y, and Z. We've got witness statements from the mom, and then they wanted to stipulate to the exam. I only wanted to stipulate to portions of the exam transcripts, but in fairness, I stipulated to all of it. So they talked about the mother in there or whatever. His closing argument basically got to the point of it's reasonable to believe that he did this.
That's not the burden of proof in a criminal case.
He's like, beyond a reasonable doubt is just saying it doesn't make sense counter to that. So it doesn't make sense that this guy who's armed with a gun has somebody beating on his sister. And I'm going to admit, my complaining witness is not the best witness. This is what he said. He's talking like that. But he's like, he's not the best witness.
Not a good witness.
I'm just telling you now. He's not someone I want to have a drink with. However, that doesn't negate the fact this guy storms in his house. I'm tired of your shit. Pulls out a gun in front of his mother and brother. And da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. And I was just like, okay. So when I got to my closing, I was like, first off, I just want you all to see the dynamic between me and brother counsel. Has anybody ever seen, and these are rhetorical questions, anybody ever see me and him this and that and argue, objection? You never saw that. You know why? Because we have a healthy respect for each other. And that's what men do. Men have a healthy respect for each other. Now think about this. You have a man who snuck behind your back having sex with your sister to the point she gets pregnant. I don't know if he loved her. That's not my issue. That's not our issue to fight. But all we know is he snuck behind his back. He still befriended him. He got him several jobs. In fact, he was the motivator. He let him stay with him. He let him live with him. This isn't about my client being upset and having, this is a betrayal. He's hurt. He's heartbroken. I've been watching you watch us. I'm asking you a rhetorical question. Have any of you seen him break character since he's been here? No, because that is his character. Even when that guy got on the stand and told complete BS, it was so bad, I saw some of you rolling your eyes. You ever see my guy roll his eyes? You ever see him do this? I think I did that 3 times before we even got through the beginning of his cross examination. Sir, is your name John Bob such and such? It's a simple question. You know what I mean? He was avoiding simple questions. Is this a reasonable man? Basically, they're going to ask you to go beyond a reasonable doubt, to have no doubt, no reasonable doubt that my client came in and put a gun in this guy's face. Aside from the fact that my client, look at him. If I asked him to stand up right now, he stood up. I'm 5'8". My client's 6'3". I said, if he opens up his arm and I'm not paying attention, boom, night night to me. The complaining witness was smaller than me. Let's talk about the kids, because nobody talked about the kids. What are they going through? Because we got the reports. Here's his criminal history. We got the reports. March, June, November. It's like he takes a few months off from beating on her and then he gets right back on the horse, respectfully. Do you see any point where my client pulled a gun on him in March? Because, again, I can't tell you what some would do, but I know if he did what they said in this report that we can't talk about here, I don't know if I wouldn't be on trial. But let's talk about June. What about June? I went through that whole thing, blah, 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 dramatic stuff, right? And I just laid it out for him like, look, man, this is not about him trying to go in there and save his sister. His sister made her bed. She's with this dude. You think they didn't try to get her away from him? They got 3 kids now. She's locked in, unfortunately. But the problem is her life doesn't have to be my client's. At any point in time, if she wants to leave, not only are there resources for her, I personally have connections and resources of domestic violence survivors. Excuse me, I didn't say women, but just in general, domestic violence survivors, which most of them are women, but I just want to be clear. I've had connections to that, and I've actually given her contacts, me personally, because we did bring the sister on the stand or whatever. She came at the exam and the trial. And I said, I've given those to her. And we asked her on the stand, we asked her, why don't you leave? And she said she can't afford to. That's it. She didn't say, oh, he's a good guy. She didn't say, no, it's not really him. He's misunderstood. She's taking those blows for her babies. But today, you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you get to fight back for her and for my client. Because imagine how much it must take for you to know your sister's down the road getting beat on, and you can't go over there and grab this MFer by the neck and just make it stop. We know he didn't do that because he didn't do it in June, he didn't do it in March, he didn't do it then, and he didn't do it this.
That's real good. Grabbing a paper and going through the guy's criminal history, it's something tangible that the jury can hold on to, literally. In their mind's eye, they can hold on to that. Tell me your client's reaction when he finally hears the verdict. What's his reaction? What's your reaction?
I'm not gonna lie, I was very nervous because there was this one lady on the jury, man. We did a jury pool afterwards, skipping ahead, and she was like, I just didn't like you at first. I was like, what did I do? Tell me. She said, I don't know. You just came across like you were very arrogant. And I said, yeah, I definitely get that. But you got to understand, I come from the trenches. So I'm always doubted. So I have to have a certain level of confidence to even be able to fight in this arena. So to some who misunderstood or don't really want to take the time to know me, it comes across as arrogance. I totally get it. But for you, I'm glad that you took the time to get to know me throughout this trial. And you could see, she was like, it was when I saw you cross examine him. That was it. That was when I was on your side for sure. And I was like, thank you.
That's great. You won over during the trial.
I'm telling you, people in the bailiff was like, you could see his face when I was crossing him. He was looking at the dude like, I'll beat your fucking ass. I wish you would say something to me. I wish you would. I'll beat your ass. Every man in that room was like that, talking, looking at him like that. Like, I bet you won't say nothing to me.
Do you remember the makeup of the jury?
I think there were more women than men. There were four white women, one minority woman who was maybe like Middle Easternish or something, or Indian, and a Asian woman. And then the men on the jury was one young brother. I wanted to make sure he stayed on. They tried to get him off. Oh, the prosecutor told me, he was like, I was trying to get him off, bro, but I knew you was gonna Batson me. I said, you fucking right I was. You fucking right. Don't make me do it on the record. I love you, Andy. That's my guy. He was the prosecutor. I said, I love you, bro, but I will Batson challenge the shit out of anybody. Do not go in that realm. He was like, nah, I ain't do it.
I raise bats in damn near every trial. If they start striking the minorities, I raise bats. I don't care.
Where you challenge the people that the prosecute or the opposing counsel is trying to exclude from the jury based on like race or something. So it's like, hey, I think they're discriminating. They've somehow asked to eliminate all of the black jurors. Like, like
Big coincidence, right?
I had a case in law school like that where I was doing an externship in district court, and I'm doing this externship with this judge. This is in Dallas, Texas at the time. This Latino couple had a Latino lawyer, and they were going against this, like, I don't know if he was Middle Eastern or whatever it was. He was this big, fat, sloppy, kind of white guy looking guy, but he wasn't like white. I don't know, whatever. But he was real sleazy, sweating all over the place, right? He's taking all the black people off, all of it. You know how you like blink and flitter and flutter? I'm not supposed to say anything because I'm an extern there. I'm not even allowed to be involved. But I'm like, hey, he's getting all the minorities off the jury. What are you doing? So finally, the judge was like, hey, we're going to adjourn. I forget what it was. Or she took a break and she was like, can my assistants or my externs go in the rooms with you guys? So the externs that I was with, one of them was like this real conservative military guy. So of course he went to the opposing counsel's room because he wanted to see how they were going to beat this poor couple that was suing this landlord because he wouldn't fix all the stuff. Their baby had like all these medical issues, and some of it stemmed from the house. So that was the lawsuit. I'm wrapping this up. I go into the room and I'm telling him, I'm like, hey man, you got to Batson challenge this motherfucker, dog. He's taking all the minorities off. He took all the black people off. Da 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 da. He's like, where? He did? When? He's looking through the sheet, like, where? Who? When? And I'm like, where's your selection sheet, bro? Are you using this shit? What is going on, bro? I'm in law school, by the way. So I don't know. I'm looking to him like he's in the practice and I should be like looking up to him. So I'm kind of like, hey, it looks like he's taking all the black people. He's like, really? And then that's when I got pissed and I was like, bro, are you using the sheet? Here, look. Oh no, he excluded him because he was young.
Oh, he's not even tracking it. He doesn't even see what's happening.
The guy that he excluded was 21. You got a young white guy on here who's 19. Make it make sense, dog. You're not even looking for it. That's the crazy part. So imagine how many diverse clients we have out there who might have attorneys who aren't even looking for that shit.
This is still America. Race still matters. So I'm looking for Batson in every trial. I don't care if the prosecutor's black. I don't care if my client is white and they start striking all the white people. It's the same thing. That's the Batson challenge.
That's a fact. So he didn't want to do it. So we had a young brother that was there. I felt he was good because I was talking with him. And afterwards, we talked, and he was like, "Man, I ain't gonna lie. It wasn't until that dude started talking crazy that I really was like, man, the whole time I thought your client did it. I ain't even gonna lie." I was like, "For real?" He was like, "Man, I'm telling you, he got that resting bitch face that just make you feel like I'm gonna knock you out." But then when he started talking, he was just like a fucking teddy bear.
Your client testified at the trial?
Afterward, he didn't testify. He would have got ate up.
You told me you were nervous waiting on the verdict and when the verdict was read. How was your client?
For him, he was very nervous visibly. He's a very stoic character. So he's normally like this. All right. Yeah, we'll see what the next move is. But he was like, I don't, man, I gotta, my job, and then my daughter. What am I gonna do with my daughter? Like, how do I, you know what I mean? Like, he was pacing back and forth, and I'm trying to keep him cool. But at the same time, I'm in my mind doing the same thing.
Same thing, right? Just not out loud.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were very nervous, and I was also nervous again because one of the women that were on the jury was this older white lady. That was the one who said she didn't like me at first. She was very visible with her dislike for me. I knew I could get her. I was like, this is about domestic violence. And I could see she was, respectfully, she was one tough old fucking broad. You know that white lady where you just, oh, are you gonna hit me? Well then do it. Well then do it. You know, that type of lady. You'd be like, ma'am, I was just walking by. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Like it was her. So I said, somebody like that, she's definitely been hit before. So I was like, she's gonna be on my side. I'm gonna get her because you can't act like that and nobody test you at some point. So that's what happened. She told us, and I told her, I said, I felt like you would feel me on the domestic violence, and she was like, I'm a survivor, and I said, I knew you were, lady. I knew you were. So that was good. The young Indian girl, she said, he was so disgusting. Like, I want to know what those reports said.
Please, can I see him now?
She's like, I can look them up, they're public information. I was like, yes, you can. Oh, you know his name as you were. You know what I'm saying? Like, do what you feel. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna look it up. But that was cool. There was like this older white guy on the jury, and which is wild because where we are in Wayne County, it's very diverse. So I think I had probably like 4 or 5 white people on the jury.
How many total jurors?
14.
So 12 and two alternates.
I think we needed one because the jurors didn't show up. It was interesting talking with them afterwards, polling the jury and seeing what they thought.
I gotta know how you felt after the jury verdict came out. You know, earlier we talked about how difficult it is to represent an innocent person. In this case, your client who was innocent was vindicated and found not guilty. So, how did that feel for you? What kind of relief did you experience, just hearing those two words that we all want to hear?
There was 2 situations where I felt like I was gonna cry. I had a situation, and they both stem around fatherhood. So this other case I had where the gentleman was facing 17 years, and he's a HAB 4, which means he had 4 or more prior felonies. He was drunk one night. He had divorced from his wife. He had done 17 years in prison, came home, got married, they got a divorce. He was drunk. It was Thanksgiving. He went to the house that they both were married at the time. They hadn't gotten the divorce actually yet. Then she said, no, you can't come in. He fell asleep in the car. She called the police. The only thing that saved his life is that he was in the driveway and he was an owner of the property because they were married. So he had standing. And we got the case dismissed because they came and they searched himself in the car and they found a gun. It wasn't his gun. He was dating another woman at the time who had a CPO. She had the gun in the car, and he borrowed her car to go to his ex-wife's house because he wanted to be back with his wife.
We call that a cluster.
If you think about it, you understand what happened. Not that you're like, yeah, good idea. You just like, oh wow. So basically, his life would be over. He was facing over 20 some odd years, I think it was, in prison for this because he's a HAB 4. So it's like you start off 15 minimum and then you go from there. So we beat his case. He had just had a child when he got out of jail. He hadn't been out of jail for more than 2 years. So his son was like almost two. And me and him both cried that day when we beat that case. We didn't have to go to jury trial. We beat it on emotion. It was like that with this guy's case here. I didn't cry in his case. He cried, but, and I'm not saying that because I was tough. I'm saying it because I had just literally been dealing with the prior case motion with the 17 years and better type thing. So when this happened, all he did, we were in the hallway and we just hugged up, man to man, locked in, pause. And he's like, they try to take me from my baby. They try to take me from my kids. They don't want me to be a father. I love my kids. They always say that about black men. They say we don't love our kids. We love our kids. We in the hallway, nigga. I'm with him like, we love our kids. He said, we love our kids. We love our kids. We not like him. And I'm just in there like, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they got a bunch of people in the courthouse that's hearing that.
The bailiff is supposed to escort us out. That motherfucker was in there like this. Cause he's a dad. And he felt that shit. It was just so crazy. The prosecutor was like, hey, congratulations, man. Great job. Like really happy for you. You know what I mean? Like even he didn't want it, but he got to do his job.
But see, that's what I struggle with. I struggle with this whole idea of the prosecutor just has to do his job. I disagree with that. We, as the criminal defense lawyers, we have to do our job. We have to defend our clients no matter what. The prosecutor doesn't have the same job. Their job isn't to prosecute no matter what. If they have a case where they believe they have a truly innocent person, they are supposed to dismiss the case. But that's not what happens. If somebody gets arrested, in a lot of these cases, they think because he's arrested, he has to plead guilty to something. We have to give him something. And if the person is innocent, they're supposed to let him go. You're supposed to dismiss the case. That's what you're supposed to do. Your obligation is to uphold the law. And if the facts don't fit the law, you're supposed to let people go. So I don't let them get away with saying, I have a job to do. No, your job is to the public. My client is a member of the public. That argument I'm making might never survive, but that is what their real obligation is.
It's supposed to be. Let me say this, right? Because I wanted to give you this perspective because going what you would say behind enemy lines in the prosecutor's office, when I started to understand why this matters, right? So when sometimes the prosecutors say, oh, I got to do my job or whatever have you, the politics of the prosecutor's office is saying that when they go to try and dismiss these cases, there's all this backlash. Let me give you an example. When I was going through the prosecutor's office, I first started out in the violent crimes unit, right? So anybody who got shot in Detroit, we dealt with that case, and there was like a grand jury hearing, blah blah blah. Once they realized I was not going to be part of their little committee, if that makes sense, they tried to what they did demote me to another unit, but that was actually the best thing for me. So I just wanted to point that out that I agree with you. I actually was a testament to that, to the point where I was dismissing so many cases, and not just because I dismissed them. For example, I would have cases, I had young men, and I would say, hey, go get a GED. I think I told you this. I would say, hey, go get a GED, sign up for this, and come back, and then we'll dismiss the case. Okay, hey, young man, your mom says you were having these problems at home. I tell you what, come back with a good report from mom, and then we'll dismiss this misdemeanor case or some small, whatever it is. So, the reason why I am even bringing that up is to say that the peer pressure that some of these prosecutors face in there, they're not strong enough and built properly to avoid it. That's not an excuse for them because they should. But I'm just saying, I see it happen. So I know, okay, that's why they say, I'm just doing my job. They're afraid.
They need their job, right?
And I'm not shitting on all prosecutors because I'm not saying it in that way, but in many cases, that's the only thing they can do. Their mind isn't astute enough to understand the flip side of the argument to be a defense attorney. They're not coordinated enough and have enough business savvy to go out on their own and run a business. So this is what they can do. And they don't understand the numbers or finances to do corporate, but they know, hey, they tell me if this guy did one, two, and three, I can sentence him to this. So I'm not saying that all prosecutors are dumb or anything. That's not true. I was a prosecutor, but my point is that some of them are in a position where they're not even that skilled because there's no other place for them to go. Anyway, I'm sorry. Some girl said she was going to be a prosecutor to me the other day, and I just looked at her like, you are the exact opposite of who should be in the prosecutor's office. That is wild to me because she has no criminal law background whatsoever. Been practicing for like 6, 7 years. What are you doing going into criminal? Like, that's crazy. And so I fear for everybody that she deals with.
That's an interesting perspective that I personally don't have. I've never been on that side of the bar. What did this case teach you?
This case taught me stop pussyfooting around to get to trial because remember I told you that moment I felt like, oh my God, maybe there's a plea I can do. No, it was like that's the energy you should have had when you came in the door.
From the beginning, my mindset has always been the same. It's hard sometimes, but I believe you got to prepare every case from day one as if it's going to trial. Even though most of them aren't, you're going to get the best plea deal if you prepare for trial. And if the case goes to trial, you're going to be prepared if you start preparing from day one. So prepare every case as if it's going to trial.
And I think my issue at the time was not necessarily about like whether we're going to go to trial, but like, excuse me, whether I would be prepared for trial, but more so whether we were even going to get there because of the facts of the case. And I was like, man, these facts really don't align because it leaves us just with these two individuals in the room. And so it really comes down to the credibility of the complaining witness. Do I want to put my client's life on the line based on this guy? Once I seen him and seen what's going on, I was like, I think we got this.
What should the public take away from this story?
I would say one, be very careful about responding to family drama. It's very easy to get caught up into something. You didn't realize how it escalated so fast, you know? That's one. Making sure that you understand your place and position in this instance and in the future. So what does that mean? In this instance, I'm her brother and yes, I need to protect her, but also for the future, I need to make sure that I'm not placed in this situation again. So that might be a conversation with my sister, that might be a conversation with my brother-in-law. That might be us all having a conversation as a family. That might be the children having a conversation. What are you guys seeing? How does it make you feel? Let's articulate that to the parents so that we can all come together and do the right thing, if that makes any sense. So there's a lot that the public can take. The sister in this case, so if there's any women, or in this case, it was a woman, but it could be a man, a domestic violence survivor, there are certain steps that you can take. So if you wanted to take from this case that there are resources out there for you. It may not seem like that, but you have to reach out to different organizations in your area. It's easy as a Google search. If you don't have that requisite knowledge to search and do all this, you can go to the family court itself and ask them for their resources. Someone will help you, but please ask for help and someone will try.
Not even legal advice, advice on how to protect yourself, in many cases, save your own life. Because this domestic violence stuff is absolutely out of hand. I really appreciate you doing this. This was a very good trial story. Sounds like a very awesome client. And there's going to be more people in the future. So I got to ask for my audience and for anybody out there in Michigan, specifically in the Detroit area where you're located, where can people go to find you and to connect with you?
I appreciate you, my brother, for even having me on. I appreciate all the work that you do. I've seen some of the shows. I know it's a lot of work. I've produced a podcast way back in the day. The editing and all that, it's a lot. So I just want to say thank you and give you your flowers and what you're doing, brother. For my folks out here in Detroit, y'all want to tap in with me, y'all can always go to the website. First off is www.bartonlaw, PLLC That's Barton, Bartonlaw. P is in Paul, L is in Larry, L is in Larry again, C is in Charles.com. You can go there. You can go to my Instagram, which is just the same thing, Barton Law PLLC, and you'll see some professional stuff there. And if you want to see the fuckery and all that, definitely go to TikTok. That's where I post all the egregious stuff that they try to disbar me for. So y'all tap in there. Same thing. Handle is Barton Law PLLC. We talk that talk on there for real. So other than that, you can catch me at any of these local things. If you in the community, in the streets, doing stuff for people, you'll see me somewhere, somehow. The next thing that we have coming up, if I may, my brother, House Representative Donovan McKinney here in Detroit, is putting on a resource fair for those coming out of prison and incarceration who need help and things of that nature. That'll be tomorrow. Matter of fact, August 26th from 12 to 3 p.m. Definitely tap in with us. And I'll be there representing the state bar, helping people with legal questions, basically. The other thing and the last thing is May 10th, my firm and the state bar, through the state bar as well, we're having a Mother's Day event. It'll be our third annual Mother's Day event. We focus on mothers who have lost their children to gun violence. So we're going to have guest speaker Dr. Portia Lockett. We're supposed to have honorary keynote speaker Lieutenant Governor Garland. He's the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Michigan. We partnered up with Force Detroit, who deals with anti-gun violence in the community. Partnered up with New Era Detroit. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they are nationwide. But they started here in Detroit. They are those brothers in the community. They just shut down a gas station that was violating the community. I mean, shut it down, like not close, like made them have to sell it. Like you can't operate here. They protect people. They've done a lot of stuff, and I've been fortunate to do a lot of work with New Era. So if you ever get a chance, check out New Era Detroit. I'm honored to work with them. That's how deep it is. They help communities, man. Like real quick, you know how people talk all that shit and everything. There was a case where this man R-worded a 78-year-old woman in her home. He just knocked on the door. She was home by herself, and then went in there. New Era Detroit, and everybody was on the scene. The whole city was on lockdown looking for this dude. You feel me? Like we don't play that stuff out here. You're not gonna hurt women and children out here around men, not around real men. So that's New Era Detroit. Shout out to them. Anyway, and my sisters and all them that are a part of New Era Detroit, they have a very big sisterhood. It's not just men. So anyway, throwing that out there. So we're partnering with them, and of course, Pastor Barry at the Church of Messiah. That brother, when they say buy the block, he bought the block and provided housing for families who couldn't afford, all the way to the point where he provides cable and internet service for them. Like that's how deep it is. This brother's in the game. So that's where we are. We're having that event for them May 10th. If you guys want to come out, please come out, celebrate with these mothers. We want to honor them. You know, they've lost their children, and sometimes they just need, you know, love, right? So come on out. We'll have food provided, and we'll be giving gifts to the mothers. It's gonna be like bouquets. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be lovely. So those are the things I'm on. If y'all want to be a part of them, come tap in with us. Shoot us an email, and we'll tell you about what we got going forward. If you're a sponsor or anybody who wants to get active and donate money to any of these events or whatever have you, tap in with us. You know the money's going to where it's going because I spend my own damn money doing it. So I'm gonna put yours with mine, and we're gonna do something. So that's it, man. I appreciate you. Just pray for me. My next drop,
When is it in June?
June 23rd, is the start of it. That's the guy, the case where the individual was charged with shooting three state police officers, but we believe it was self defense. And I'll get into that later. Maybe, hopefully, knock on wood, we'll be having an interview about that case. So
All right, man. It was a pleasure, man. Enjoy. What is it? 316. The rest of your Friday and your weekend.
that's what's up, man. Y'all enjoy, man. Listen, brother, again, I appreciate you. Give you your flowers, man. What you doing, celebrating us out here, and we want to celebrate you for doing that and putting in the work, man. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity as well, man.
All right. Thank you, man. Take care. And that, my friends, is the sound of justice being served right here on the Iron Gavel. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll know as soon as the next episode drops. Take care.